Brothers and sisters in the Dharma, may you all be well and happy. The Chinese New Year, the year of the dragon 2024, will dawn upon us very soon. So let me firstly wish you all a very happy Chinese New Year, year of the dragon. Now, many will be looking forward to celebrating the year of the dragon. There will be many who are looking forward to lots of fun, fantastic food, fireworks, and firecrackers. Others may be looking forward to lots of beer and cheer. And there will be some who will be having a lot of fun visiting and chit-chatting with friends and also receiving angbao. Now, as Buddhists, it is important that we also consider doing a very important Dharma practice, and that is to, you can say, go for prayers or to reflect and contemplate on the Dhamma. Now, today we are going to do a presentation titled Aspirations for the Year of the Dragon 2024. Now, these aspirations are very important. Aspirations basically refer to the wishes, the hopes, the desires, or the things you would like to have fulfilled. Good wishes and hope for the new year, right? So that is what we are going to do. We are going to have a presentation of many aspirations that we can do on New Year Day, on Chinese New Year Day. Now, the texts are in English and Chinese. Chinese was done using Google Translate, so it might not be 100% accurate, but it gives a fair idea for those who are not so used to English text or English narration. The narration will, and explanation will be in English. So that is the presentation we are going to do now. Now, as usual, we will launch the PowerPoint title, Aspirations for the Year of the Dragon. So now this slideshow, we will begin from the beginning. Now you see the first slide of the presentation, Aspirations for the Year of the Dragon 2024. 恭喜发财, Happy Chinese New Year. Now let us go on to see what the aspirations are. Now let me take off the video. Okay. Now, this is the first one. I'll read the aspirations where you can do on New Year Day on your own in the quiet moments, in silence. Here we are actually trying to explain the aspirations. Now, the first of the aspirations reads as follows. May we all grow in the mind and reach the truth sublime. Now, in the practice of Dhamma, it is very important that we develop the mind. Develop the mind so that the mind is clearer, the mind is wiser, the mind has more compassion and all other virtues. And the final goal actually is enlightenment, to reach the truth sublime, the lofty truth. And the truth is actually the true Dhamma. And Dharma, actually, I like this definition. It refers to things as they truly are, or you can say the universal laws of nature, righteousness, the nature's laws. So that is the ultimate aim of all Buddhists. So this is one aspiration that you can do. A very, very good aspiration. Now let us go on to slide number 3. This is the next aspiration. May wise loving kindness and compassion spur us into more positive action. Now, we have these two very important qualities to develop in our Dhamma practice. Actually, in Pali, it's called metta and karuna. Metta is best translated as loving kindness. Compassion is karuna. Actually, these are two divine qualities under what we call the Brahma Viharas. The four sublime states, or you can say the four positive emotions. And these qualities are very, very important. Now, in the Brahma realm, the very, very high divine realm, you have the Brahmas, right? And these Brahmas, the high heavenly gods, have these four sublime states of metta, which is loving kindness, compassion or karuna, and the third one is mudita, translated as altruistic joy, to be happy when other people are successful or when other people are happy. And the fourth of the divine states or sublime states is actually upekkha, which can be translated as equanimity. But this aspiration is on metta and compassion. Now you make the aspiration, but remember, the aspirations must be put into practice. Otherwise, they will just remain as aspirations and they cannot be fulfilled. It's just not intellectual stuff of just reciting the thing. Of course, one good thing is that you fill the mind with these positive things, positive wishes, right? Aspiration. But very important to actualize them through the practice. So this particular aspiration that you make, that you would hope or desire that the metta and compassion that should be accompanied by wisdom. You find that any practice of compassion or metta must have wisdom. We won't be doing foolish acts of compassion, like for example, giving money to a hardcore drug addict and he buys more drugs. That would not be wise compassion, right? So we aspire that this practice of loving kindness and compassion will motivate us into doing more positive deeds, more, you can say, wholesome deeds. You know what are the wholesome deeds? Like, for example, very important would be dana, sila, and bhavana. Dana translates as charity or generosity, and then sila is the morality, and bhavana is the mental development. So we will step up this practice, right, of dana, sila, bhavana, and that is the aspiration. So that is slide number 3. Now let us go on to slide number 4. May we heed Buddha's teachings and advice and become most happy, peaceful, and wise. Now, this is a very important aspiration that we aspire, we hope, we wish that we will ardently follow Buddha's teachings. And Buddha's teachings, you can also say the Dharma. and advice. Now you see that Buddhism is a DIY religion. You have to practice. You cannot just say, I'm very interested in Buddha's teachings. I've read many, many books, but you don't put into practice. That will be quite useless, right? There won't be a transformation for the better in your mind. And in the Dharma, you can actually learn also by referring to the scriptures, the original scriptures. There are many, many messages of advice, wise advice that the Buddha gave to enable us to live a more happy, peaceful, and wise life. So when we make this aspiration, we also must remember to put them into practice, right? And I told you, for lay people, the most important thing that we can do in the practice is actually dana, sila, bhavana, which is charity or generosity, morality, and mind development. So if you follow this, definitely you will become more happy, peaceful, and the wisdom will grow. If it doesn't happen, then you are on the wrong track. You have not been practicing the true Dharma or the true Buddha's teachings. And you are not following the advice to live your life. So this is also a very important aspiration. This is slide number 4. Let us now move on to slide number 5. May morality and mindful living develop mental states of well-being. Now, this is a very, very good aspiration, isn't it? Now, we want to have states of well-being. We want to be healthy in the mind as well as in the body. And we want to be always feeling peaceful, happy, joyful, calm, equanimous. But these things don't happen, right? You need to take the steps in order to develop such mental states. And here, the important practice is morality and mindful living. So this aspiration concentrates on morality and mindful living. Now, morality, or you can say virtue, is the foundation of any religion. And for Buddhism, morality, or you can say in Pali, sila, for lay person to practice centers on the precepts, the moral precepts, the things that we have to do in terms of moral behavior or conduct. And as you know, for Buddhists, right, the precepts are 5. The 5 precepts of not killing, not stealing, not committing sexual misconduct, and then not lying, and not taking intoxicants that make us intoxicants, like, for example, liquor and drugs. And the other important thing to practice is mindfulness. Mindfulness, right mindfulness. To be Now, general way people think is that to be always aware, to be always knowing, to have attention on what we do or what is happening in the body and the mind. But in the Buddhist context, mindfulness, most important is the right mindfulness. Based on what we call the 4 foundations of mindfulness, in the Satipatthana Sutta that translates as the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Being mindful of the body, being mindful of the feelings, being mindful of the mind, and being mindful of the Dharma. To contemplating on these 4 things. But anyway, we are not going to the details of the 4 foundations of mindfulness. So you can take it as a general meaning, right? Or being very alert, very attentive, and very aware, right? So this is a very important aspiration. So we have covered so far 5 slides, including the cover slide. Now, let us now go on to slide number 6, on to the next aspiration. May our aspirations and contemplation help lead us to peace and liberation. Now, everybody wants happiness, success, peacefulness, right? And many other good things that people want, having a long life, being very healthy, and so on. But the final goal is actually enlightenment, right? This, of course, will come if you practice the Dharma uh, properly or correctly, right? So you now make the aspirations that your aspirations will be able to help you, to guide you, or to lead you so that you are closer and closer to the final goal of liberation, which is enlightenment, or you can say nibbana. And one other very important thing in the practice of Dharma, to realize the final goal of liberation or enlightenment, is contemplation. Contemplation comes under the bhavana, the mind development. We need to do reflection and contemplation, right, on the teachings or the words of the Buddha. Now, this is a very important aspect in the Dhamma practice. Now, very important is we need to listen with what we call yoniso manasikara, with full attention, wise reflection on the teachings, either through reading the correct books of the original scriptures, or listening to maybe a very cultivated monk or a Buddhist friend who is cultivated and on the path. That is this very important thing. Then not only that, you have to repeatedly do that. You can't just do just once listen or once you read that thing and then you forget about it. No, you have to repeatedly. And then the third point is that you need to uh, let us say, discuss with good friends who are Dhamma-based and well-versed with the Dhamma. And then contemplation. This is the point there. That you need to ponder over, reflect over what you have read or listened to, or you have learned. And then the final thing is meditation. So when you do all these things, you are on the right track. And contemplation is one of those steps that I mentioned just now. So you can see that this is also a very important aspiration that you make. And very important in the practice is discipline, mental discipline. You make those aspirations, especially on an auspicious occasion like Visa, or in this case, we are going to do it in the year of the dragon, at quiet moments, in the silence of your mind and the surroundings. And you will be driven to actualize this. You also make the aspiration to actualize this, to practice. Then you will attain the final goal of perfect happiness, peace, and freedom, which is enlightenment. Now let us go on to slide number 7. Slide number 7. 恭喜发财 wish. May our compassion and wisdom grow day by day as we mindfully walk the Noble Eightfold Way. Now, if you were to summarize in one line what the teaching of Buddhism is all about, you can also say is to develop our compassion and wisdom to the fullest. But in the scripture, it's mentioned that the Buddha said, the most important thing, one thing he teaches alone, and that is the end of suffering, the cessation of dukkha. That is actually the most important, the most important line. The teaching is centered on the cessation of all suffering. But you see, as you practice the compassion and wisdom, right, by following a path which is called the Noble Eightfold Path, that is that one way alone, the only way, right? The one way, you can say the one way that will lead to enlightenment. Some will translate as, well, is I think mentioned also, I've heard many monks saying that the only way for liberation, the only way to be enlightened is the Noble Eightfold Path. This Noble Eightfold Path, I've done before in presentations, comes under the most important teachings of the Buddha, and that is the Four Noble Truths. This is the fourth factor in the Four Noble Truths. We may come to that afterwards. So you make this aspiration that your aspiration and wisdom will be going up and up as the days go by. And of course, you know the practice of compassion, right? To have firstly, the metta, the loving kindness for the suffering ones, the needy ones. And then after that, you are spurred to do positive actions to relieve the suffering of other people, especially of all suffering ones, including animals also. And that is actually compassion, a very active, a positive and active quality to practice. I've come across many compassionate monks, right, or even nuns, and you find that, wow, you have that sort of very fantastic feelings. They are compassion and wisdom also. Actually, these two will be going together, like two sides of a coin. So a person with these qualities of compassion and wisdom, like Ajahn Brahm, one person whose compassion and wisdom will overwhelm you, when you interact with him. For example, attending a retreat, which I found there is a fantastic guy, a fantastic monk. So we make this expression that these compassion, of course, just now I mentioned, is karuna, and wisdom is panya in Pali, that we make this expression that these two will be going up and up or improving while you are walking the most important part, and that is the Noble Eightfold Path. So this is slide number 7. So now let us go on to slide number 8. May our hearts open up with more work of dana as we all strive along the path to Nibbana. You find all these aspirations are written in couplets form. Couplets, here you will see the two sentences or the two lines rhyme with one another. And they also have rhythm in the sense that each line has the same, or the two lines have the same number of syllables. So this gives a rhythm. So you find that it reads better, and you find it's more joyful reading these couplets. So now this particular aspiration pertains to dana, the practice of dana, which translates as giving, generosity, charity, service to others. All these comes under dana. And dana is a very important practice in Buddhism. And just now I told you the threefold training for a lay person is dana, sila, bhavana. Giving, morality, and mental development. So a person who practices the Dhamma has to practice dana. And one of the very important things is to cut the ego, to cut the self, right? That is one root cause of all dukkha, the ego in us. So this Dana is a very, very important practice. So we make the aspiration that through the more practice of Dana, our hearts will open up. Open up would imply that it will grow, right? It will grow in compassion, right? It will go in a state of being more caring, right? It will grow in a positive state of metta also. So it's connected, this compassion and metta. So you can see a person who practices dana generous, right, is quite well liked, apart from the fact that he has to practice sila also, right, the morality. The opposite will be a person that is very, very selfish, kedekut, self-centered, all the while thinking of himself, not willing to leave a hand to help others or to render service to others. So this, you see, is very, very essential if you want to grow in your happiness, peace, and calm. So, of course, just now I said already, right? The path to Nibbana, the one part, only path to Nibbana is the Noble Eightfold Path. And the Noble Eightfold Path is not just a theoretical, intellectual stuff. It's a way where you need to practice. You need to work diligently at it. And to summarize, the Noble Eightfold Path actually comes to three groups of things. One is, actually in Pali, we call Sila, Samadhi, Panya. So Sila, Samadhi, Panya actually refer to the Noble Eightfold Path. That means we must have morality, where you will find in the Noble Eightfold Path, you have factors covering morality, like for example, right speech, right action, right livelihood. And then the other thing is Sila Samadhi. Samadhi is the state of, you can say, concentration, composure, stillness, is pertaining to the mind state. To reach the Samadhi state, you will be actually arriving at the absorptions or the jhanas. And this Samadhi is at the 8th point of the Noble Eightfold Path. Sama Samadhi we have to practice. And then, of course, the other thing is wisdom. Now, wisdom can only arise if you practice, especially, you must start off with the first one, which is Samadhi, to have the right view, right? And to have the right view, the area or noble thing is to have an understanding, realization of the Four Noble Truths, which is the truth of dukkha, the cause of dukkha, the cessation of dukkha, and the way leading to the cessation of dukkha, which is the Noble Eightfold Path. So the right view is essential if you going to start off the Noble Eightfold Path, and it will lead you to the other factors. The other factors in the Noble Eightfold Path, like for example, right thought, right speech, right action, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. And the whole thing actually essential, actually, if you want to develop your wisdom, develop the wisdom. So this is slide number 8. Now let us go on to slide number 9 already. Number 9 is a very, very essential and important thing. And it pertains to the 3 mental poisons essentially. Now let me read before I explain the aspiration. May we cut our greed, anger, ego, and fear as we practice with a mind that's clear. Now, you find Buddhists who talk always of cutting off the mental defilements, the mental poisons, defilements, that defile, they make your mind, you can say, dirty, or make your mind bad, or make your mind into a state that will have suffering. So these are the defilements, the thing defile is, defile means to make dirty, right? So these three most important defilements are greed, anger, and delusion. And connected with delusion is this ego, this thing of the self, me, mine. So if our way of life is centered on just this ego self, then you find it will lead to dukkha. And that is actually a delusion because there is no actually self, right? There's no self at all. Everything is anatta, non-self. So I think greed, or you say in Pali, loba, has its little devils accompanying it. Greed, covetousness, unwholesome desires, right? Attachment, covetousness, all those things, right? Under loba. And they will lead you to dukkha. And anger or hate, you can say, it comes under the Pali word dosa. And dosa would entail these states of the mind like hate, which is normally it translates that greed, hatred, delusion. And connected with it, of course, connected with hatred will be anger. And then you have the other little devils in this group of defilements like jealousy, envy, and then aversion, strong dislike, revengeful, right? Thoughts of cruelty, to take revenge. All these come under dosa, which is a terrible defilement that will bring you much suffering and also propel you, if you don't cut or reduce, this will propel you into woeful state of existence in the course of rebirth, right, or reincarnation. Then you find we have put in one more thing, fear. Right? Fear is a negative emotion, isn't it? Right? Fear, worry, very unsettled. And this, of course, will be connected with the other departments. You will feel fearful, especially when the point of dying comes and your mind has so much of greed, anger, and delusion. You have done many unwholesome deeds. There will be this state of fear. So you can cut this fear through doing all the wholesome actions in the practice. So that's why it's put in. And how do we do it? We need to practice the Dhamma. Again, same thing of walking the Noble Eightfold Path with a mind that is calm, steady, clear, right? Concentrated. So as we practice, very important, the mind state has to be calm, steady, composed, clear. So that is this point. Now let us go on to slide number 10. May we spread our metta or loving kindness to fill all beings with peace and happiness. Now, one very important practice in Buddhism is what we call metta bhavana, which translates as loving kindness. That's the best translation. And that is the practice of meditation on loving kindness. I have also done postings on this metta. As I said just now, metta is one of the four sublime states or the Brahma Viharas of metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, sympathetic joy, and upekkha, which is tranquility, or upekkha means equanimity. So when we practice the metta, you practice the metta to radiate the thoughts of loving kindness to yourself, your family members, your friends, your teachers, and in fact to all beings, no discrimination. All beings, including animals and the spirits and so on. All beings in the range of existence, you have this aspiration that you want to spread this metta to them or to radiate this metta to them so that their whole being is filled with peace and happiness. People who receive metta will feel also very good. Just like as you visit a sick patient in the hospital and you give the sick patient so much metta, you have loving kindness, words, and then you really, have really great friendliness, benevolence, goodwill, all those are elements of metta to him. How would he feel? He will feel very good, isn't it? You can experience this now. When somebody comes with full of metta, wow, you really feel good. And your feeling good of the mind will help your body. So this even helps the body. There have been cases where people use this metta and cure the sick animals and so on, right? So this is number 10. Now we go on to number 11. This is one of the very, very important things about right view. Now, if you look at the Noble Eightfold Paths, the Noble Eightfold Way, the first of the eight is Samaditi. And Samaditi translates as right view or right understanding. And the noble thing about right view is to have the right understanding and also realization of the Four Noble Truths of dukkha, the cause of dukkha, the cessation of dukkha, and the way leading to the end of dukkha. So the noble being, right? So he sees, or he understands and sees. If you completely understand and sees, S-E-E-S, right? Capital S-E-E, to see, to realize of these Four Noble Truths, you are enlightened. So you see that the right view is very, very important. And you practice it, as I said just now, by listening to the true Dhamma with full concentration, wise concentration, full concentration, a wise reflection. With that type of state, very focused, not distracted on that. Now, this is the first thing that you need to have, right? And then after that, I told you already, you need to reflect, contemplate on it. Then you need to repeatedly do it, right? To repeatedly read or listen on the true Dhamma. So this aspiration now, right? For all people, we need to do this, right? To attempt to have better understanding of the Four Noble Truths, right? And once you have this, then you, according to the scriptures, you enter the stream. That means you are going to the Noble Eightfold Path and you become a noble being, an Arya. And this noble being, you find is the first stage of sainthood, right? A Sotapanna, where you will no longer be reborn into the woeful states. That's what is written in the scriptures. So you make this aspiration that you want to learn, understand, right? The true Dhamma, through listening, through reading. But at the same time also, you find that you will be practicing your morality and virtue. Like I mentioned before, the sila, right? And this will lead, once you have the right view, will lead to all the other factors of right thought, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and then right concentration. So how important it is. So that's why you need to make this aspiration. Now let us go on to number 12. May we not slacken in our spiritual practice. May we not give lame excuses like that lah or this, right? I put now, usually we say, yeah, don't do this or that lah. But now I need the word to rhyme with practice. So I turn it around and say, do not give lame excuses like that or this. So it's just for the rhyming purpose. Now you find in any spiritual practice, diligence very important, right? And it's very important that we do not decline or we do not slack. Decline, and that means going backwards. Through what? Through laziness, right? Sleepiness. So we always must have this aspiration that we should not be lazy in our practice of Dharma in this case. But you can say spiritual practice, it happens for all religion, isn't it? It's used for all religion. I have known of so many people, right? They start off very well, very diligent, hardworking, and so on. But then the Mara will be the personification of the evil forces. Loosely, we call the devil, but there's no this being a devil in you. It's actually the personification of evil forces, the departments in your mind trying to conquer you. Don't do this. It's just like a voice inside. Do this lah, right? What for you go and practice, right? Then you'll be tempted, and be lured into the unwholesome actions instead of practicing the wholesome deeds. This you have to be very careful. For such people, in the scriptures mentioned, they belong to a group from light to darkness. They start off very well, doing wholesome deeds and the other practices of Dharma, and then conquered by the Mara evil forces, and they decline. Then they, have negative mental state, unwholesome mental states, do mental and physical deeds which are unwholesome. This is actually darkness already. And they will have their consequences, like facing with more dukkha and having woeful states of rebirth. And usually people like to give excuses, lame excuses, no. We invite them to come for the Dhamma talk. They say, cannot lah, because this and that lah. Next time when I'm free, I'll come. But actually, they want to watch a Korea series on the TV or something like that. Then they give excuses because, I have to go to the supermarket. All these are lame excuses, not good excuses. So they slacken in the practice. So you have to be careful of that. Now we go on to number 13 already. These are two very important qualities, patience and determination. Patience and determination are actually two qualities in what we call the paramis. Paramis are perfections that the Bodhisattva, a Buddha to be, cultivates. In Theravada Buddhism, you have 10 qualities that need to be cultivated until 100%. Then you become enlightened. So these two qualities in Pali is called patience is Khanti and determination is Aditana. And in fact, you will see that this patience and determination, these two qualities are important not only for spirituality, not only for Dharma practice, but they are actually important in your ordinary worldly living or mundane living. Like whatever you do on a project or in your study or in your career, you need patience in it. Today, many people lack patience. You have more accidents on the road, and then they are not successful, they fail, because they expect just like 3-minute Maggie mee. They expect to get results. Wow, so easy. And then the other thing is keazaman, which we say is determination, to determine and not to give up so easily. You find the successful people, the great people, the scientists, I've talked about this before, great scientists and inventors or great writers and so on. They have this determination plus another quality we call perseverance, to persevere on, to be persistent in what you do until you arrive at the goal, the success. They don't have that give up type of attitude, give up easily attitude. So now, this pertains to spreading the Dharma. Now, spreading the Dharma, is the greatest of all gifts. Because, as I always emphasize, two things only that really are your true wealth, that you will bring with you from life to life. When we die, we don't take anything with us except two things. We can't take our possessions, our wealth, our loved ones, all the things, your shares, whatever, your titles and so on, all will come to naught. You cannot take with you. Your own body also you cannot take with you. Only two things that really you can take with you from life to life. One is your karma, right? The deeds that you do, the wholesome deeds will be the good karma, unwholesome deeds will be the bad karma. So the karma will follow you from life to life. And the other thing is the dharma that you have learned, You have realized, you have seen, and they are embedded in the depth of your mind. All right. And this is not lost, it's in the mind, you see. All right. So you have realized this. So these are the only two things. So when you reflect, you know that it's worthwhile to spend time to enrich these two qualities in the mind because that's your true wealth. And we don't know anytime we can go. It go means we will die, right? Not only old people, even young ones, right? Can just, nobody is certain of anything. Life is uncertain. That is certain, and it can come at any point, and you don't know even how. So when you reflect on this, then your wisdom grows, and you know you need to spend some time on the learning, practice, and the realization of Dharma. And for this now, you see that we need the patience. And spreading the Dharma is a meritorious thing. Because Dharma is the greatest gift and you want people to benefit. So if you can share the Dharma that you know that you have learned, that is a meritorious thing. And you have these two qualities of diligence and passion. You have the enthusiasm. You have the great interest to do this very good action of sharing the Dharma with others. So this is the aspiration you do. Now let us go on to number 14. Number 14. May we not be enslaved by pursuits of material wealth, ignoring our physical, mental, and spiritual health. Now, being enslaved is like being a slave. And a slave has to follow the orders, the whims and fancies of the boss. It's terrible, isn't it? Like being in prison, no freedom, that you are being chained, you are being bonded. Wow, it's terrible to be a slave, isn't it? Now, of course, slavery is already abolished in America. But today you have also modern slaves. But here we are talking about the slaves of people who spend their life just chasing for material things, material wealth, sensual pursuits. Their life is centered on that. 1 million not enough, so they will go on and sometimes using the criminal ways, immoral ways, in order to be more wealthy, in order to have more material possessions, which if they realize are all impermanent. They do not belong to you, and you will have to part with them anytime. Suddenly, you wouldn't know. But today, sad to say, you have more and more people seem to be enslaved by this. I'm not saying that you cannot get material wealth or possession and so. What I'm referring is people who have become like slaves. Ordinary people that still have to earn living, get some comfort and material possessions for the benefit and comfort of the family and so on. But this is extreme case or very terrible state of being enslaved. And they completely forget or ignore. They don't bother. Maybe it's delusion. They don't bother even about their physical and mental health. There are people that work until their health physically are impaired. So you have diseases coming in. And people who work until they are so stressed, they break down. Now you have depression. But the other thing is no spiritual health at all. So spiritually, kosong. And then this will bring regrets at the later stage, especially when the person is dying or having a terminal illness. That this is how you have spent your life. So when you reflect on this, then you make this aspiration of not to be trapped by Mara in just endless pursuits of sensual things, to enjoy the senses only, completely forgetting about the important aspects of growing in spirituality and taking care of our physical and mental health. So this, you find is a very, very important aspiration also, isn't it? So now we go on to number 15. May we meditate in calm and peace. May all our pain, stress, and worry cease. Meditation, it was translated as bhavana. right? But actually, bhavana is better translated as mental development or mental purification or mental cultivation. And meditation is one of the things in bhavana. Lah. To develop the mind, actually, an essential thing also is meditation. So, of course, I'm not going to talk about the details of meditation. I posted this on this, the benefits, for example. So many benefits of meditation, right? So you make this aspiration that you will meditate, right, with the objective of which is correct, right? The objective to cut the greed, hatred, delusion, to be liberated, and then you also would aspire that there will be opportunities, circumstances that enable you to meditate in calm and peace. Right? So of course, meditation has to be done in solitude or maybe group meditation, but still you are quiet and silent alone, isn't it? And the mind is raised to a calm, composed, and peaceful state, a state of stillness also. And that's where things begin to happen, positive things. You can read about the benefits I posted before. Then, of course, you have the aspiration. Everybody wants to be free from physical pain, mental pain. Everybody wants to be healthy and so on, isn't it? But you can just say, I want this, I want that, but you don't take any steps, the proper steps. And meditation is one of the things that we need to do to lessen this pain, stress, and worry. So you make this aspiration and you take the steps. The aspiration, may our pain, stress, and worry cease. And the complete comprehensive way is the Noble Eightfold Path again. And meditation is an essential factor in that Noble Eightfold Path. The meditation is actually pertains to the three last steps: right effort, right concentration, right mindfulness, and right concentration. This all pertains to the mental development, where you will need the meditation as one of the things in the mental development. Now let us go on to slide number 16 already. All right. Now, number 16. May we see what really matters finally. May we let go and strive on spiritually. I posted a few presentations of what really matters. You find that you ask people, what is the most important thing in your life? Many will give worldly answers like, well, I want to be a billionaire. I want to own this, own that. I want to have these titles. I want to have the highest degrees of the universities. It's not that it's wrong, it's wrong. But if you really reflect and ponder, what is the thing that really matters ultimately? Ultimately means when you come to the stage of death, which cannot be avoided, right? You have life, you must have death. In Mandarin, we say 生老病死. You are born, right? And then you age, and then you will be having sickness, and you have death. You can't have it. See, so the wise person will reflect and contemplate, and if they see means to be able to realize, to feel in their mind, and not just to understand intellectually to pass an exam. That is not seeing. That's why you put in capitals. So, this one you need to actually practice along and do a lot of reflection to realize that finally what matters, as I've said just now, just these two things, your real wealth, your karma and the dharma realization. So when you can see this already, the ultimate thing that really matters is actually karma and the dharma you realize. Then you begin to let go already. You let go means, oh, now I give up everything. You're not ready to give up to become a monk and so on. You let go. That means you cut your mundane wants, no? Right? Then you live a life of that you really need something that not based on greed. So it should be need and not greed, you see. And then you begin to have contentment, to live a simple life. You are quite peaceful and happy. So that is a letting go. letting go. That means a less burden already. You don't have to, yeah, you have this, you have that, endless shopping, endless touring of the world, never ending. And you can't still find the happiness, true happiness and peacefulness. Because the true happiness and peacefulness lie within the mind and not in the external world. The external world give you temporary pleasures and happiness. So, you need the practice, although I just explained in words, but then you need the practice to realize for yourself. But more important thing of letting go is letting go of all those negative states, like, your greed, your anger, your uh, ego, and then you want to let go, any grudge or negative feeling towards your so-called enemy, right? You develop the state of forgiveness to be more forgiving. So you let go of all those negative things, selfishness, greed, and then the terrible temper, your terrible conceit, or your ego, all those things you let go because you see already these are all the things that will bring me dukkha. Only two things I have to concentrate on. So this is how you reflect. Now let us go on to slide number 17. All right. Now, let us now look at number 17. May we develop our mind mindfully to remove any negativity. You find the mind is very easily filled with rubbish, negative things. That's why in Chinese saying, I think I say, right, it's easier to be bad than good. No? To be bad, 3 days, you can get all the bad things into your mind. But to be good, wow, will be very difficult. Even 3 years or so, you find difficult. Very true. The mind is such that the departments can conquer easily. So that's why you have to be very, very mindful, heedful, careful. Otherwise, you'll be caught. So, so you make the aspiration that if you develop the mind in the right way, like having the right view, as you do this, you're always aware. You're always aware of what is happening, what sort of things are rising in your mind. Like in the practice of right effort, you know that you have to cast away all the unwholesome things in the mind, right? And do not let the unwholesome things enter your mind, right? Like more greed coming in, more egoistic things coming in. All this cut. On the other hand, you have to develop the mental states of more positive emotions. Let them grow, like your dana spirit, right? Your metta, your compassion, your letting go, your non-attachment, your peacefulness and calmness of the mind. All these good states, you must develop in the mind. That is basically right effort. So, so when you reply on this, you say, then how do we do it? I mentioned before, the most important way is still the Noble Eightfold Path. But here, if you want to, let's say, be most narrow it down, important things you have to do. We have to be very alert and mindful to watch what is happening in the mind so that you can cut the negative things that arise very, very immediately, you can say. And then also to, with very good mindfulness and intention, to welcome the states of goodness, right? Like having a dana spirit I mentioned just now. And then of course this has to be put into practice. You cannot say, oh, I want to be very charitable, I want to be very kind, I want to be humble. All these are words, but do you put into action? So when you put into action, you actualize the things that you have in your mind, the intention, your aspirations. So you see the actualization, which means put into practice, then that becomes a very essential, important thing. Otherwise, Buddhism will just be reduced to just intellectual philosophy, and it's useless. I spent many years pursuing along that line, intellectualism. Not to say it's not important. For a start, you still need the knowledge and so on. But you need the practice. And then this way, you will find your mind is developing and you become more and more positive, right? So this is the second last slide, right? So now we come to the end slide. Oh. I've chosen this very elaborate slide to connote this Happy New Year, the year of the dragon, with all the bright lights, the celebration and so on. But anyway, the aspiration again is very important. As I said just now, two very important things that we need to develop as practicing Buddhists is wisdom and compassion. And in fact, I read also, and I listened to talks of that wisdom and compassion are like two sides of the coin, right? So when you have true wisdom, that is not the fake wisdom, right? Today, many people claim that they know this, they know that, they have a lot of wisdom, but you see all the foolishness and stupidity. That's the opposite of wisdom. And we think that they are very wise, right? If it's true wisdom and so on, then you can see that person also has compassion. This is one good way to test out, right? If you have wisdom and then you become very, very cruel, that is not wisdom already. It cannot be already. So there are two sides of the coin. So you practice correctly along the Noble Eightfold Path. So you make this aspiration that you grow in wisdom and compassion, and can act through practicing ardently, diligently, mindfully the Noble Eightfold Path. And then your final aspiration connected with this is to attain the ultimate liberation. The ultimate means the final goal. The final goal is to cross the sea of samsara, to cut all the dukkha, all the defilements no more already. That you have become an arahant or even the Buddha, you have become enlightened and you will no longer be reborn into the suffering world of samsara. And that is the final goal, Nibbana. So I have actually spoken more than 1 hour on this very important topic or aspirations for the year of the dragon 2024. And this is for you to put into practice on New Year Day. Find some time to go over this and to practice this. And then you feel very, very happy and peaceful. So I wish you Happy New Year, 恭喜发财, 新年快乐. Because very soon, the Chinese New Year, 新年, the year of the dragon, will dawn upon us already. So now, before we say sadhu 3 times, I would like to take this opportunity to thank all you brothers and sisters in the Dharma for taking time and putting in the effort to follow this presentation. You have used time and also energy to follow this long presentation. I hope you have benefited, and also if you can do this meritorious deed of sharing the Dhamma, of also share this set of aspirations to all the people whom you consider to have the affinity. There are some people you rather don't do because they say, don't give me all these crap things. So now let us put our palms together, folded palms, and we say sadhu 3 times. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. To all brothers and sisters in the Dhamma and all who have been following this presentation, right? Thank you, sadhu, and may you all be well, happy, peaceful, and may you always practice the Dhamma following the Noble Eightfold Path. Happy New Year, sadhu.